Welcome to Bump Set Chat, the podcast where volleyball professionals come on and share their stories, experiences, and advice. I am super excited. I have fellow Canadian, Caylee Parker. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so glad you're able to take the time and have a chat. So the way we get things started is we do 3 random questions. So are you ready?
Ready?
All right. Is Tim Hortons overrated?
Absolutely not. Unreal. Unreal.
All right. Next question. When you were going to UConn, when you came home, what was that home cooked meal you couldn't wait to get?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Honestly, probably a steak dinner.
All right. Easy enough.
Yep.
And what was the last TV show you watched?
Baby Reindeer. It's on Netflix right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not for the weak stomach, that's for sure.
All right.
It's like a true crime type
Okay.
series. It's interesting, that's for sure.
Right. Okay. I thought maybe you were feeling like nostalgically Christmas or something, but no. Okay. All right. Not that at all.
Close.
All right. So welcome to the podcast. So happy you're here. So, you went to UConn and, let's start with where you're from.
Okay, so I am from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, which is directly across from Detroit. My teammates used to say I was a fake Canadian, that I was a Detroit native, but live very close to the border. Grew up playing here. I would play mostly in the States for my first few years of club volleyball.
Oh, okay.
So from about 12U to 16U, I only played in the States. And then 16U was when my team decided that we were going to play in both Ontario and the US just to get exposure in both.
Yeah.
For more post-collegiate options for everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, so born and raised here.
And now, was your club team based in the States or was it based in Canada?
It was based in Windsor.
Okay.
So yeah, we practiced everything here, and then on the weekends we would travel Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, trying to think where else we went. Indiana.
Yeah.
Kind of like anywhere in the Midwest, really.
Yeah.
And then I also played for a club team in Toronto when I was only playing in the US. So I played US and then Canada separately. And we traveled to like Florida and obviously all around Ontario and whatnot.
Okay. And, when did you first discover volleyball?
I first discovered volleyball probably around 8 or 9. Both my parents played volleyball. That's kind of how they met.
Yeah.
They were friends and they started playing together, and the rest is history.
Yep.
Here I am now.
Many relationships have been formed from volleyball. It's such a great co-ed social
really
sport.
Is. It's an amazing place to build relationships, friendships, any type of relationship, really. But yeah, I was introduced to it at a very young age. I didn't start playing club till I was about 9 or 10. So I would say like 3rd, 4th grade was when I really started playing competitively, and then, just carried on.
Yeah. And what was the hook volleyball has on you that, no other sport has?
I don't know. I love just the enthusiasm, and I think I'm a big people person.
Mm-hmm.
So just having like that team aspect, like I like playing individual sports. Like I ran track, I did a bunch of different things. Like I played basketball, but volleyball's team atmosphere really just sold me, and I think the experiences and the memories that I made for it just kind of hooked on, and I could never let go to it.
Excellent. Yeah, my daughter just started playing a couple of years ago, and the excitement and from the bench to the whole team, it's just, and then I see that, at the collegiate level too. Was it that way when you were playing club too, or was that just sort of?
I think we had a good atmosphere in terms of like cheering and like energy in club, but I think it really escalated in like university. Our bench at UConn was unmatched. I don't care what anyone says, what teams will argue that they're the best. No, we had the best fan section. We had the best bench. They were unreal. At times, like I would turn around, like we'd be celebrating a point or someone would be celebrating a point, and I see girls benching each other. They're like doing like the bowling pin cheers, and I don't know. It's just that kind of stuff. Like I love that, and I feel like people can feed off of it, which just makes the game so much more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not like we may talk about this a little later. Is like coming from high school or club, being that alpha, and now you're on the bench. But in college, on the bench is not you're still an active participant. just, from the
Absolutely.
bench side of things, it's quite energetic.
Oh, for sure. No doubt. I feel like the bench arguably can be even a bigger piece than the people on the court.
Yeah.
Sometimes things are happening on the court that we necessarily can't control, and the bench can find a way to pick us up and just give us that little bit of fire under us that could push us to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you also play ball in high school as well, or was it just club?
I played high school as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't get enough of it, so why not?
Well, it's we're going to run into this now. Like I've just not talked about my daughter. Coming from club and going to high school, where that skill gap of high school is like this, whereas club is like this, and
Mhm.
now you're going to come back and it's you just it's going to be difficult, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate that my high school had a pretty solid group of club players. Um, so like our starting lineup was 4 or 5 out of the 6 people were playing club
Oh,
somewhere. So I
nice.
feel like there wasn't a big skill gap.
Yeah.
And even if the girls that weren't playing club, like they were amazing. Like for us, we went to the equivalent of states every year. We went to our provincial championships every year.
Yeah.
We placed really well every year. Like we did a great job, and I obviously it's different going from high school to club. But I think it was nice being able to compete with girls that were all kind of at the same level, regardless if they played club or not.
Yeah. Nice. And now, how important would you say club ball was to, your skill development and being able to allow you to play at that next level in college?
It was very important. Um, Obviously, so I came from a very small club at one point. The first club that I started with, we were the only team in the club. So it wasn't really a club, but um so I came from a very small club, but I was very fortunate that my coach at the time, Will Pumpedith, did a great job of developing us and like really breaking it down to the nitty-gritty so that when I did get into college and we were working on the little things, like I wasn't very far behind or the other girls weren't very far behind.
Yeah.
And then with that being said, I also was able to play on like our provincial team and our national team. And I think also getting that type of information from a bunch of different coaches really allowed me to broaden my horizons and the skills that I already had.
Yeah.
That when I came to UConn, I was able to continue building off of the bases that I had, which allowed me to push myself and push my teammates and get better at each and every day.
Yeah. Nice. And now you mentioned about being part of the Canadian junior team. How, when did that pop up on your radar, or when did you pop up on their radar?
So I started, well, again, I played in Canada on a team in Toronto when I was 15. We kind of had a trade-off. One girl would come play with us in the States, and then I would go play with them when they were in Canada. Because I wanted to play for the provincial team. Like, national team's always been a goal of mine. So in order to do that, I had to play in Canada.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they weren't really going to see me. So probably around the age 14 or 15, I was like, ooh, like, if I can get to the national team, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So my 15th year, I got invited to the provincial team tryouts. That's kind of where it all started.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't expecting much. I really just wanted to go out there for the experience, put my name out there. Small kid from Windsor, like not a lot of people were coming out of Windsor
Yeah.
and playing at that level. So I ended up making the team. Amazing. It was a 16s team. I was a year under. So I was very excited about that. And I think that kind of opened the door for me in terms of national team stuff because in that following year was when we had junior national team tryouts. They hosted, I believe it was in Niagara Falls, at one of the colleges up there. And I was like, why not? I got invited to try out. I was like, let's just go. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
If you don't make it, no problem. Like you're going to be learning from great coaches. If you do make it, even better. You're going to continue
Exactly.
to work on your skill set. And I was very fortunate that I ended up making it to their 18s team when I was 16. And honestly, it's an experience that I will forever remember to this day. Not only did I learn so much from the older girls and my amazing coaches, but being able to compete against like we were playing against Cuba, we were playing against Puerto Rico, we were playing against the US national team, which was at the time like Lexi Sun, Catherine Plummer, like these big name girls where like we'd
Yeah.
go play against them and Texas, Nebraska, like all these big name coaches are on the court watching us. So I think just that experience in itself was so eye-opening and it really pushed me to want to keep pursuing volleyball and go as far as I can.
Yeah. Excellent. And now was being part of that team was really the opportunity that sort of brought, US colleges, to your doorstep?
Honestly, no.
Oh, okay.
I knew from like age 12, maybe 10. I did not want to play in Canada. Not that there's anything wrong with Canadian schools. I think the OUA is great. The Canadian Volleyball League in general in terms of university is amazing. U Sports is great over here.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
I wanted to get out of the country, especially being so close to the US and Michigan in general. I spent a lot of time over there anyways. I was like, why not?
Right.
If I can get to a NCAA school, amazing. Again, if not, there's always U Sport options. But I remember in 13U we did goal setting, and one of my top goals was I want to go D1.
Yeah.
I don't care where I go, I want to go D1. So I think just kind of like the atmosphere my coaches created from a very young age
Mm-hmm.
kind of opened the NCAA
Yeah.
to my eyes like right away.
Yeah.
So I knew from a very young age that that was what I wanted to do.
Excellent. Yeah, I recently just had Shina Joseph on, who's from Ottawa, and
Right.
she went down to UF, and it was sort of
Hmm.
the same thing. She knew she wanted to play down here, and like you were saying, nothing, not knocking the system, but it's just different. Collegiate sports are just handled differently down here. It's a different experience.
Oh, they're definitely held to a higher standard in the US compared to Canada. I really wish and hope that one day Canadian sports and university sports, college sports in general over here can get the amount of attention and funding that US colleges do.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that would be amazing for them to
Yeah.
get the same experiences and everything that we had.
Yeah. Well, I always talk about this, from, talking about the UConn women's basketball team. Like the first year we moved down here, from Canada, I had no idea how big it was. And, here's,
Mhm.
20,000 people in Hartford going to watch a women's collegiate basketball game. That's
I
unheard of
know.
back home.
I know it's crazy. Like, so my brother plays for the University of Windsor. He's on the volleyball team, and I saw a picture of one of their. They were playing the semifinals of the OUAs in Windsor,
Yeah.
and just seeing like their gym and seeing what it looked like packed compared to what, for instance, Gamble looks like when it's packed. I was like,
Right.
I
Yeah.
was like, you still get a great, overwhelming amount of support, but just the differences in numbers in Canada compared to the US
Yep.
is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And, I was just talking to one of the players from University of Hawaii. Their women's team went to Brazil for their exhibition. The
Hmm.
men's team went to Japan. And it's just like, those are opportunities that you don't get, back home,
Hmm.
unfortunately.
No, for sure. So when I was on the provincial team, my senior year of high school, we actually got the opportunity to go to France to play with their national team for a week.
Oh, wow.
And honestly, one of the best experiences of my life. One, you're just making new friends in a different country,
Yeah.
which like there's a few of them that I still talk to this day. So that was back in like 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
Um, but just seeing, even like going pro, seeing the difference between volleyball overseas and volleyball in North America is
Yeah.
it's awesome. 'Cause you just learn so much more.
Yep. Absolutely. And now, UConn. What made you pick UConn? What was that recruiting
Mhm.
process like?
Honestly, it was the environment for me and just the family aspect that the team really preached. Um, so I took my first official visit, or not official, sorry, unofficial, when I was 15. So I think it was when I was in grade 10.
Yeah.
And this young 15-year-old going to a bunch of like college girls and their practices and stuff. Like I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. It was one
Right.
of my first visits. But the way that they just made me feel welcome, like right off the bat, I was like, okay, this feels like home. And I took a couple more unofficials, but I kind of knew in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, I want to go here.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think just the coaching staff as well. So at the time, it was Chris Grunwald was the head coach when I
Yeah.
was first being recruited. And Ellen was the assistant coach. Ellen and I talked frequently. I loved Ellen, I loved Chris, I loved Scotty. They were all part of my recruiting process.
Yeah.
I really bonded with Ellen. I think we have very similar personalities, and I think her and I learned that over my 5 years at UConn. Um, but the coaching staff sold it for me for sure. just how much they showed that they cared about me before I even got to UConn.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, I remember when I was first getting recruited, Chris had flown out to Windsor to come watch me practice. I was like, for me, that was unreal. I was like, wow, for this coach to travel X amount of hours to come see me, drive into Windsor in a snowstorm to watch my
Right.
practice. I was like, they want me. I want to be there with them.
Yeah.
It was the family aspect, the coaches, how much they cared about me even before I got there, which obviously was reciprocated once I got there. They cared for our team
Yeah.
like we were their own kids. So yeah, it felt like home from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think it was always the right fit for me.
Nice. It's really neat to hear you talk about how the players when you went there as a 15-year-old, it sounded like that same care and compassion that they had for you carried on through you to the as sort of the next group of players because Emma Workmeister was on a couple of weeks ago and she talked about how you were such a big help for her. And
Mhm.
and even today hearing from the freshmen like Maggie Carley talking about how it's that family sense that they care is carrying on.
Yeah, for sure. I made it a goal as I became an upperclassman that regardless of who they were, what they were, like I was going to get to know them. They didn't need to be in my position. They didn't need to be my age. I would be there for them. Hey, if they had questions, I'd probably been through it. If I wasn't hadn't gone through it, someone else did. I just knew what it felt like to be cared for at a very young age and like feel like I had nothing to worry about. So I wanted it to be reciprocated for other people.
Yeah.
And Emma happened to be my roommate in the summer of her freshman year. So she was basically my child. Um, I tried my best to take all of them under my wing or make sure
Yeah.
everyone had everything figured out.
Yeah.
Sometimes they called me mom. I tried to be like the mom of the group. Um, but I mean, like, it's hard moving away from home.
Right.
So like I know that people struggle and I just always wanted to be there for them because I
Yeah.
know how hard it could be. So being like that big sister figure, like that mom figure, there's someone that they could lean on when times were tough.
Yeah.
Or even when times weren't tough, if they just wanted to go get lunch or something.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Whatever you guys need.
Nice. One of the questions I was going to ask you, were you there for that transition when Ellen became head coach or, because, if you're being recruited by a coach and then that coach is no longer there, that would be an interesting dynamic. But it was nice that you had the continuation of Ellen being there and still, being the, end up being the head coach.
Yeah, so Chris was there my freshman year. He decided to leave in the spring of my freshman year, which was a surprise to all of us because, you sign, they're like, "Oh, I'm here for 4 years."
Right.
But he did what was best for him and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have to do what's best for yourself and I respect him forever and he is great for having me at UConn and I appreciate him more than anything. Um, but it was also awesome to see Ellen transition into that role. We didn't really know what was going to happen because, it was just interim head coach. So
Right.
we were all scared. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if we were going to get a new coach, if we were going to lose scholarships or,
Right.
some people, you could hear horror stories where some people get a new coach and then they just wipe the entire team out and start new.
Yeah.
But we were very fortunate that, Ellen got hired for that role. And I think she did an amazing job from that spring of my freshman year up until up until now, obviously, but
Yeah.
um, I only experienced up until my fifth year.
Yeah.
But she did a great job, and I think she handled it really well, and she really turned the program around.
Yeah, excellent. And now, thinking back on that first year, what were some of the hardest thing or harder things about that first year? Because first of all, you have women's volleyball is a fall sport, and as a freshman, you're first of all getting used to college in a different country, and gearing up to play at that next level.
Yeah, I think honestly the hardest part for me was the school aspect and like the time management. Um, like you're so used to your 8 to 2:30 whatever in high school, and then you're going to practice after homework after blah blah blah. But like the second you get into university, like you are on a strict schedule. For instance, in the fall, um, we would have classes 8 to 12, lift 12:45, and then we'd be done by like 4:30,
Yeah.
and then immediately go to study hall. So like that adjustment for me was hard, just because I wasn't used to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but once I got the hang, I think after my first semester, I really got the hang of it. And I also needed to realize that it's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was times like I still to this day can be a perfectionist, but I was a big perfectionist my freshman year, and I had to learn very quickly that it's okay to not be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, the transition, like you're getting used to different classes, you're getting used to a different grading system. So like I struggled with my classes my first semester just in that transition. Um, and after a lot of tears and, trying to figure things out, I did have to realize that, sometimes C's get degrees, and
Yep.
once we figured out that first semester, it was smooth sailing from there.
Nice.
But I think that was the hardest part for me. And then just holding myself to a standard that everybody else held me to on the court. Because like you're a freshman, you don't really know what's gonna happen. You go in,
Right.
my goal was to just play my ass off,
Yeah.
work really hard, do whatever I could. If I played, amazing. If I didn't play, I was gonna be the best teammate on the bench. Didn't matter. But I think realizing that regardless of me being a freshman, people were gonna hold me to a certain standard, and I needed to hold everybody else to that same standard.
Yeah.
So just kind of just like readjusting to that because you're not really used to that in club. Like obviously you hold each other accountable and whatnot, but now it's at a higher level, so it's a
Yeah.
little tougher in doing that. But
Yeah.
um, the upperclassmen did a great job of really helping us with that transition, so I'm very grateful for that.
Nice. How was the adjustment of play going from club where everybody's like 16, 17, you're all in that same age, that year essentially. And now you're playing with 18, 19, 20, 22 year old. How was the adjustment to that level of the game? Or was it a big adjustment for you?
In terms of age, it wasn't a big adjustment because I had always played up.
Yeah.
Like my 15th year, I was playing on an 18s team. Like I was used to that. In terms of like the maturity level of that and just like seeing what older people can do as you mature
Yeah.
within your skills and obviously like the intelligence within the game. Um, but I feel like I was also, and not in a bad way, but because I was a freshman, I was kind of naive. So
Hmm.
I was just going for it. Didn't matter with balls to the wall, I'm swinging for the fences,
Yeah.
like all that kind of thing. Um, but then as time went on, I kind of had to start realizing, okay, you need to just like tighten up your intelligence in the game. You need to make smarter decisions. But obviously that comes with time and with
Right.
effort and working and whatnot. But I think it was cool to see because I learned more from the older girls and even just like watching other teams play, like,
Hmm.
oh, someone would score this shot against me. I'd be like, okay, I'll fix that. But also that's a great shot. So like let me put that in my own arsenal and like
Right.
let me work on that at practice the next day.
Yeah.
Um, it was cool to see though. I think freshman year was a big learning period. Obviously, every year is a big learning
Hmm.
period, but obviously just that adjustment from club and high school to now you're playing collegiate.
Yeah.
You kind of have to like tighten up all the little loose screws and whatnot.
And the other aspect of that freshman coming in, like I sort of mentioned earlier, you're coming from club, you're that alpha, you're the starter, you're that all star on your team because now you're a freshman at college. You may not
Mhm.
have that starting role. You may have to fight for. You may be a role player. Was that a big adjustment as well, or you were there to however they needed you essentially?
Mhm. I personally made a promise to myself. I was like, I'm going to go to UConn. If I play, amazing. If I don't play, you keep working. Doesn't matter what happens and what the end result is. You just need to it's your freshman year. No expectations. You need to get better.
Yeah.
You need to listen to everything that the coaches and the girls say. And just keep your head down and work hard. And I was very fortunate enough that I did end up getting to play my freshman year. Very grateful for that. And I learned a lot, both from the coaches as well as my teammates and
Yeah.
obviously our opponents. But I feel like because I prepared myself beforehand, I didn't set myself up for failure. I knew, again, I'm 18 years old coming in, and like you said, there's 22-year-olds that could
Right.
be unreal, like girls who've been working their butts off for the last 4 years. I had absolutely no thought. I was like, just go.
Yeah.
If you play, you play. If you don't, you're learning from great people, you're learning from great coaches. Just do your best. That's all that anyone can ask
Yeah.
for. So no expectations, and I think that set me up for greatness in the long run.
Nice. And now over those 5 years at UConn, what were some of the highlights that stick out for you?
Ooh, my fourth year for sure. Um, well, let's start with my third year. Third year, we made it to the Big East. Well, We made it to the Big East tournament. So that was the first time that we had gone to a tournament
Oh,
in a
wow.
very long time, especially from changing over from the AAC.
Mm-hmm.
So that was huge for us. My fourth year was just unreal in general. We had a historical season. It was like the most wins in history. We beat Creighton when they were the number 18 team in the country, so that was huge.
Yeah.
To this day I can replay that game in my head. That was a great win for us. Great team atmosphere, great atmosphere in Gamble, all around amazing. We also went to the NIVC that year. We went to the Final Four, so that was huge. I think that was again one of the first times that we had gone to like a postseason tournament of any sorts.
Yeah.
We also went back to Big East. My fifth year, we also went back to Big East again, and we won our first Big East game, which was great because that year they had changed it from 4 teams going to the tournament to 6.
Oh,
So we had to
okay.
play a quarterfinal and then a semifinal. We beat St. John's in 5 to go to that. So that was huge for us. Personally, some of my highlights, or individually, I should say, my 1,000 kills.
Yeah.
That was awesome. As well as my 1,000 digs. I think those were really big milestones for me. And then just finishing off my career, I think I ended up being like the second all-time kills leader, which unreal. I mean, I had again no expectations going into college, so ending it on a note like that, I mean, I couldn't be more appreciative to my teammates because they really pushed me to get to that point. At the end of the day, without them and without like Maddie was one of our setters, Maddie Whitmire, Michaela Wench, my 4th year, as well as like Courtney Morris and Emma Turner from my sophomore and freshman year, like I wouldn't have been able to do that without them. So big shout out to my teammates because they allowed me to get to where I am today.
Yeah. Excellent. And now, if you could go back to, freshman CP, knowing what you know now, what advice would you say to her?
Honestly, I think it just at the end of the day would be it's okay to make mistakes. Like it's okay to fail. Without failure, you're not going to get better.
Yeah.
Because not a single person in this world is perfect, especially in the game of volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
Volleyball is literally a game of mistakes. That is how people score. Like that's just
Yep.
how things happen. And just like honestly, like a forgive and forget at the same time. You're gonna mess up. Forgive yourself. It's okay. You're allowed to make
Mm-hmm.
mistakes. Forget about it and just be better the next time.
All
That's
right.
all anyone can ask from you.
Yep. Excellent. And now for for those Canadians that may listen to this podcast, what advice do you have for them if they're thinking about playing ball down at, in the States at a D1 school?
Don't be afraid to reach out to players. Don't be afraid to reach out to coaches. The more you talk to people, one, the more information you're going to get, which at the end of the day will answer any type of questions that you have. But also like don't be afraid. I don't want to say to be annoying, but like be extra. Email them this week, tell them about XYZ. Email them maybe 2 weeks later, follow up and be like, hey, I did this, this, and this. Or like invite them to a tournament, invite
Yeah.
them to this. Like stay on that kind of stuff. And don't be afraid to ask for help in general.
Yeah.
Um, again, we don't bite. For the most part,
Yeah.
people are very nice. And I mean, if you ask and you reach out to people and ask questions, I'm sure girls will, or guys, depending on if you're male or female,
Yeah.
everybody's willing to help. Everyone is willing to give you any type of information about their schools, about their programs, all that kind of stuff. So at the end of it, don't be afraid to ask for help. Keep your head down, keep working, don't give up.
All right. Excellent. And now, being a 1,000 kill person and a 1,000 dig person, what's the thing you enjoy most? Getting that kill around maybe a double or triple block, or somebody thinking that they're going to drop a dime of a serve on you and you get it up, which is more rewarding for you?
Oh, that's hard. I mean, like I love getting kills, and that's part of my position. Getting a big kill is always a great feeling, especially with my teammates. My teammates, we were each other's biggest hype men. It's like if I got a kill, like they were my biggest cheerleaders. If someone else got a kill, I was their biggest cheerleader. I think the atmosphere around getting the kills was great, but at the same time, like digging or passing, someone like served a rocket at me or like hit a rocket at me
Yeah.
and I got it. I was like, ah, you thought. I feel like they're both equally as fulfilling in
Yeah.
terms of achievements.
All
So
right.
I like both.
All right. So once you were done UConn, you went off to Europe and play to play. What was that experience like, and what made you pick Europe?
So I first started in Greece after I honestly was home for like a month and then I left. Um, I'm not gonna lie, it was very hard in the beginning. I'm very used to being away from home. I spent every summer away, national team, everything, obviously 5 years at UConn. But I think being on a different continent and being 7 hours ahead of my family
Mm-hmm.
was very hard for me in the beginning. But I think once I got used to the schedule and once I got adjusted to the time zone and whatnot, I had a great time. I really enjoyed seeing the different atmospheres and cultures and just the different plays in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
I was only there for 3 months because I went halfway through their season, obviously. So they play like September-ish to about April.
Yeah.
So they do like a fall spring type thing. And normally there's 2 rounds, so like you'll play everybody in the first round of this fall, and then you play everyone again in the spring and then playoffs. So I think Greece was a really cool experience. I made really great friends. I was treated really well, really appreciated my coaches and my teammates. And then this past year, I went to Hungary and I was playing over there. And I didn't have the best experience. Um, I ended up leaving early because the atmosphere was just very toxic.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just want to put my mental health first because at the end of the day, if I'm not doing well mentally or physically, um, I'm not gonna cause myself to deteriorate more to play something if I'm
Yeah.
not gonna enjoy it. So, at the end of the day, I put myself first and I left. And, I'm doing much better now, which
Yeah.
is great. Still training and whatnot, but my teammates were great. The volleyball in Hungary was really competitive. I ended up being a libero in Hungary
Oh
though.
shoot.
That was different. Wasn't expecting that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to play and that's all that really matters to me. So that was an interesting experience. Is I've played like libero here and there, nothing crazy. I've been an
Yeah.
outside my entire life. So that was different, but I think it allowed me to really like hone in on my passing and my defense,
Right.
which is also great for an outside as well. Because I feel like a lot of the times outsides can be interchangeable in between a lib or a DS,
Yeah.
as well as being an outside. So I think at the end of the day, even though wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do, I took it and I wore it. I worked my butt off to just be the best libero that I could be. And at the end of the day, I think it did help my skills overall.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would tell anyone if they're thinking about going overseas, anywhere,
Yeah.
Europe, South America, wherever you want to go, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. If you love it, amazing, keep going. If you don't, you can still say you did it.
Yeah.
I think I would just tell people you don't want to regret things in life. So worst case scenario, if you don't like it, you
It
can go home.
it's 6 months, or you leave early. And
Yeah, it's like
yeah, it's when Shina was on, she talked about her experience. She went to Bulgaria the first year, and she didn't like that at all. Her
mhm.
experience, it was lonely, and she ended up playing in Philippines and Japan. She absolutely loved those experiences. So there's other leagues you can move over to. Like you said, you had a great
Absolutely.
time in Greece.
Yeah, I think Greece was very positive. I think the volleyball was hit or miss at times, which is okay. There's always going to be teams that are really good. There's always going to be teams that maybe aren't the best.
Yeah.
I think Hungary in terms of volleyball was just a little bit more competitive per se,
Yeah.
but at the cost of my mental health it wasn't worth
Yeah.
it. So I was very thankful. Like my dad ended up flying up to Hungary within 2, 3 days of me telling them that I needed to come home. Uh,
Nice.
just so that I wasn't by myself.
Yep.
When I wasn't in the best headspace, which
Yeah.
I'm extremely thankful for my family because they've always backed me in any decision that I made, and I mean, my agent as well backed me in the decisions that I made, so I'm very thankful for all of them.
Excellent.
But again, if you're gonna go, if you want to do it, do it.
Yep.
Anything is possible if you put your mind to it. If you don't like it, you can leave. If you love it, you stay and you keep playing.
Yep. And you have it's such a small window of an opportunity for you to try and go and do this. Fresh out of
Absolutely.
college, no real commitments. You know what?
Yeah.
Go for it. You got nothing to lose.
Yeah, you're young.
Yeah.
You don't like I once I stop playing, I want to go back and get my master's. So like I have a plan afterwards, but I would love to ride volleyball out as long as I can.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, and now when you were playing in Greece and Hungary, I had Chaz Galloway on from Hawaii. You played for UH, and he was talking about when they went to Japan. It was a different style of volleyball. Did you notice a different style of volleyball that they played in the different countries?
So I feel like Greece, for me personally, in the league that I was playing in, was a little bit slower in terms of pace than UConn or just like NCAA in
Yeah,
general. Um, Hungary, on the other hand, I feel like it was pretty comparable to NCAA.
yeah,
There also was a lot of NCAA players that were playing in Hungary with me as well. There was a girl who played at Cal Poly. There was a girl who played at LSU. Like there was a few North Americans, which was nice to
yes,
see. Um, but I think the competitiveness as well as just the height and how people were jumping and all that stuff was very comparable to NCAA and Hungary. Whereas I feel as if Greece was a little bit again slower
yeah,
and girls weren't as tall and the game was still very competitive though, obviously. I think I learned a lot from both places, which is always nice because I feel like at no point in life can you stop learning
yeah.
things.
Especially volleyball. Volleyball has such a long, huge learning curve. Always picking
Mhm.
up tidbits here and there.
Absolutely, especially from like for instance, when I was in Hungary, I most of my teammates were foreign. So we had three girls from Brazil, we had a girl from Portugal, one from France, one from the Netherlands, and then the rest were Hungarian, and then there was me. So just even picking up on the stuff that your teammates had learned over the years, like I had a couple teammates that were 32.
Yeah,
Like I was one of the youngest. So even learning from like their 8, 9 years of professional volleyball was really awesome because I've been playing for 2 years. I'm not gonna know as much
right.
as them. So it was always great to just pick up on little things. They'd be like, "Hey, you got that ball, but maybe next time try this." Or I'd be like, "Hey, great shot. If you want this, like this is open." Just being able to like bounce ideas off each other, especially coming from different backgrounds
Mm-hmm.
and different countries. It's really cool to see what other people do in different places.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, when you were playing, did you have any pregame rituals or routines that you were religiously followed, or you just showed up and played?
Uh, I always had my hair the same in college. I would always put high ponytail, braid the ponytail every single time. Doesn't matter what I was doing. In practices, I could do whatever I wanted.
Yeah,
In day, same thing every time. Um, my fourth and my fifth year, I had a necklace. It was like a little pendant that my parents had bought me for my birthday. And before every game, our trainer, Katie Martin, I would put it on her before every game. That was my ritual. She wore my necklace for every game,
yeah,
wouldn't take it off. Um, and it just became habit because we were winning. And she's
yeah,
like, "I have to wear the necklace." And if you weren't wearing the necklace, like I remember even one time in my fifth year, I was out for a weekend because I was concussed. Still had to put the necklace on her. Didn't matter that I wasn't getting taped. Didn't matter that I wasn't playing. Necklace has to be on her.
yeah. Oh,
So
nice.
it was little things.
Yeah,
But other than that, I didn't really have any other. It
yeah.
was just the ponytail and the necklace. That's it.
Were you the sole Canadian on the team?
I was.
Now we moved down here from Canada. My wife still says process project, and did they? I was like, oh, you talk funny, or yeah,
Yep. Yep. And especially anytime I said sorry,
mm-hmm,
uh, or
or
if I said
about,
about, yeah, and you're like, you're saying a boot. No, I'm not. I'm just saying about.
yeah.
But
Uh,
honestly, I actually developed an American accent.
okay,
It, yeah. People pointed out here, and I'm like, guys, I lived over in Connecticut for 5 years. I can't really do much about it. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. There's a sorry. Now, did you have an A before you went down there? Like,
Absolutely,
yeah.
still have it to this day. We'll never give that up. And it's funny because they would always they weren't like trying to like mock me or anything, but
Right.
they would try to say it, but it just never worked because they don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They try their best, and I give them that, but it just doesn't flow the way that Canadians do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you miss most about playing in college?
My teammates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have like so one of my best friends, Kennedy Jake Turner, she was my roommate for 4 out of our 5 years. Like we were like this. And she lives in California and I live in Windsor. She's currently in England, so that in itself, like I have so many friends all over the country and like for me, I would get like FOMO. I have fear of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
I miss my people. And I come back home and obviously I still have friends here in my family, but like you're so used to being surrounded
Yeah.
by the same people every single day that when you come home, like it's hard. You miss them. Like
Yeah.
I miss my girls every single day.
Yeah. That's the KB. When KB was on, she said she's going to miss the locker room. That's what she was going to miss the
Oh my
most.
God. Absolutely. Absolutely. Our locker room was it was a good time.
Yeah.
Whether it be everybody's in there studying or
Mm-hmm.
everybody's in there having lunch or pre-game rituals, like all that kind of stuff. Our locker room was never boring, that's for sure.
Nice. And
We
now,
loved it.
now today, you're understand you're involved with coaching now.
I am. So when I came home from Hungary, I normally train with the University of Windsor when I'm home. Just because a lot of the girls go home for the summer, so it's a great way to get touches and I know most of them as we all played for the same club.
Yeah.
But I reached out to them when I came home and I was like, "Hey, if you guys need like a practice player or like cuz I wanted to get touches obviously." And I was like, "Or if you just want a different outlook on things, like I am more than willing to come help. I would love to help and get involved." So I had a quick interview and they're like, "Yeah, we'd love to have you on." So I basically finished off the rest of their season with them as an assistant coach and it was a great experience. I mean, I started coaching when I was in high school. I was coaching the men's volleyball team at our
Okay.
high school. We weren't playing because we played opposite, so it'd be men's volleyball, women's basketball,
Yeah.
and then flipped it. So I would coach them. But it was really cool. It was nice to see one. I was a little nervous going in because some of the girls were only a year younger than me.
Right.
It's like the hierarchy, like would they look at me as a coach or would they look at me as their friend because
Right.
I'm but I really appreciated being there and I learned a lot in terms of coaching and I also learned a lot in terms of volleyball. And I tried my best to give them as much wisdom and as much help as they needed it. And I think at the end, I had a great experience and I think they did as well. We finished a little better than we thought we were going to. We started playing a lot better and
Yeah.
I'm happy I got to be involved, honestly.
Excellent. Did you notice a big difference in the skill or the play style between U.S. college and Canadian university?
I feel like Canadian University tempo is a little bit slower in general,
Mm-hmm.
not just like University ones or anything. I think all of youth sports, they tend to set balls a little bit slower and their tempo is a little bit slower
Yeah.
compared to the NCAA. Um, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's just because of how Canadian volleyball is and how American volleyball is. Like, for instance, in club, you can't pass with your hands until you're 16 in
Oh,
Canada.
really?
Yeah, it's a very interesting rule. I
Oh,
didn't like it because I love passing with my hands.
right.
So it's different.
Yeah.
So I think it's just honestly the way that we've grown up differently in terms of volleyball. Like sports are huge in the US.
Right.
And like they're big here, but they're held to a very high standard in the US, whereas like education and other things,
Academics are far more important,
yes. Yes.
regardless of whatever
And
sport you play.
yeah, not saying that academics aren't important in the US because they are very important.
Mm-hmm.
But I think more money goes into academics
Yeah.
and other things in Canada over athletics.
Yeah.
And there's
Absolutely.
not that there's anything wrong with it. I just hope that one day that there is more money put into athletics so that there could be bigger scholarships, there could be more put into teams, that kind of stuff.
Yep. Now, sort of the fun part of the interview here. So I got a question from a high school senior. What
Okay.
drills or techniques did you find most effective for improving your accuracy or power as a hitter?
Accuracy. So we worked a lot with like cones and stuff in practices, or like little dots we'd put on the floor. And we would go into a drill and we'd have a goal. So like a normal hitting line drill.
Yeah.
You have a goal. You have to hit, say there was a box down the line. You had to hit in the box 20 times before we could stop the drill. So like just retraining your mind to, okay, even if the set's not there, you have to find a way to get your accuracy there. Because like you don't need to pound a ball every single time you hit
Right.
it. Sometimes you can tip a ball, sometimes you can roll shot. It's just retraining your mind to realize not every ball needs to be a kill. So that was a big thing for us, and I think it worked really well because it kind of trained you to see the court better. So then it improved your accuracy within that. Um, Power, I feel like accuracy and power kind of play hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more accurate you are, I feel like you can be more powerful once you learn how to be more accurate.
Yeah.
Drill wise, I think, well, I think being in the weight room in general is very important in terms of power. That's one way. The more muscle you have,
Yeah.
the easier it'll be to put more velocity behind the ball. But I also think hand to ball contact is very important. So even doing like drills on the wall, like working on hitting the ball, the sound of it every time, like making sure you're not hitting the ball with your wrist, you're watching the ball the whole time. I think eye sequencing is big with that as well.
Yeah.
So little drills like that, even taking a tennis ball and throwing it and watching your hand contact or catching balls and hitting them under the net, like the little things that you might not necessarily think of because it's kind of getting down to the nitty gritty is very important when you're trying to build power as well
Yeah.
as accuracy.
All right. And now from a coach question, how do you prepare for sort of an when you're scouting outside hitters, how can a high school player develop better volleyball IQ?
Honestly, I think watching film is huge. Um, I personally, even outside of coaching, I would watch film 2, 3 times a week. I would go and watch with Ellen, or like I'd go watch with some of my teammates. I'd watch it at home after I've done my schoolwork. The more you watch, the more you'll pick up on little cues.
Mm-hmm.
So this year when I was coaching, I was telling them, for instance, on a roll shot, being able to notice the difference between someone's arm swing when they're hitting a ball fully and watch what they do when they are roll shotting. They'd stop instead
Yeah.
of swinging all the way through. So I think watching film is a great way to just improve your skills in volleyball because then you pick up on the little things that you might not notice when you're in game because you're in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really practice those things while you're playing. But the second you can come to practice and you've seen film, you're like, okay, this is what this player does. So like let me make a note of that in my head so that when I am playing and I see it, I can make the right
Yeah.
adjustments.
All right, excellent. And now my question, from a mental health standpoint, how do you reset after one or two bad plays? What's your sort of, goldfish moment?
Crazy you say that. I used to say that all the
Oh,
time.
no
I'd be like,
way.
it's like a goldfish. Or like people would struggle and be like, you're a goldfish. 3 seconds, that's all
Right.
you need. Um Honestly, I think I spoke to a mental health therapist and a psychologist, sports psychologist, um, my freshman, sophomore year. I still talk to one to this day.
Yeah.
I think it was like the deep breaths and just like reminding myself, like positive self-talk. You could be frustrated. It's normal. Like it is a normal reaction to be annoyed that you made a mistake or just be like, oh, like why did I do that? But I think a big thing that I learned was regardless of the play, like if I hit a ball out of bounds, be like, okay, deep breath, don't worry, like inhale, exhale, positive self-talk. Okay, you missed that one, but you just hit the ball down the line and you scored. So think about that. If that's open, do it again. If it doesn't work, try something else. And if you're not sure, ask someone.
Yeah.
I think it was just taking a deep breath and really calming myself down gave me the ability to talk to myself more positively so that my mental health didn't deteriorate
Right.
when I was making
Yeah.
mistakes. And I had to learn that because, again, being a freshman and being naive, like you don't really know how to deal with things like
Nope.
that, especially being at a different playing level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think every year and like also talking to mental health specialists and psychologists allowed me to kind of like continue to develop and strengthen my mental health so that when it
Yeah.
came to points where I was very frustrated, I knew how to calm myself down and I knew how to make things better for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, having that, sports psychologist is such a huge thing. I had Eric Shoji on there a while ago, and he was, he was working with one when he was 13 years old, and he still, talks to them today.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
think it's so important. I was preaching it to my university girls. I was like, you don't have to have a problem to talk to someone.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you might just be confused why you can't figure out how to do the skill. A psychologist could help you with that. A
Yep.
sports psychologist would be like, okay, let me break it down for you. What are you feeling in this moment? And you'd be like, oh, I understand why I can't get this now because I'm so stuck on this one thing. I was like, you don't have to talk to a therapist if you're having problems. Like, you can if you are not having problems. If you are having problems, amazing. Still talk to them. Like, I still talk to a therapist to this day, and I will preach therapy till the day that I die.
Yep.
It is so helpful. It allows you to find different ways of dealing with things, which I think not only will help you in sports, but it also will help you in everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. All right. So, when Eric was on, I asked him and Taylor Averill have a thing, what's the most demanding position in volleyball? So, what do you think is the most demanding position in volleyball?
That's hard. Honestly, a setting for sure.
Yeah.
And I say that because they're basically the quarterback of volleyball. Like that, it's just an easy way to put it. They're running all over the court. They gotta dig, they gotta set, they gotta jump, they gotta do everything. They have serve. Like at times they have to pass. Like sometimes the ball comes to them. You just gotta play it. I think on top of the physical aspect, the mental toughness a setter has to have.
Yeah.
You're running the floor. Like you have to be thinking 10 steps ahead every single play.
Yeah.
So I think not only is it mentally tough, it's physically tough. Like I shout out to all my setters out there because it is not easy.
Nope. Absolutely. That's so true. All right. So now, when, in the fall, are you thinking about going back overseas somewhere to play?
Yeah, when I came home from Hungary, I was very much I don't know if I want to play anymore. I the experience was very awful, but I think as time went on and I was allowed myself to heal and continue working with my therapist and just figuring myself out, I don't want to give up volleyball yet. So
Yeah.
if I get picked up, amazing. If I don't, I can always fall back on coaching and go back to school and whatnot. But I would love to go back overseas if I get the opportunity to. So fingers crossed. And
Fingers crossed. And now,
hopefully I will.
also we have the Professional Volleyball League here, the PVF. And
Mhm.
apparently, I heard rumors they're expanding their teams. And also, we have the Love League starting down here in the States next fall as well. So there's, more opportunities.
If I could get into that, that would be so ideal. I would love to do that. But you know what? Whatever happens, happens. If I
Yep.
could get into that, amazing. If I can go back overseas, amazing. I will be happy with whatever comes my way.
Excellent. All right. And now, away from the volleyball court, what are some of the things you like to do?
Oh, what do I do? Uh, I like to work out. I think it really helps with again mental health, but also just staying healthy, staying fit. Love that.
Yeah.
Hanging out with my family and friends, going out trying new things, whether it be like restaurants, places, movies, anything like that. I'm a big family oriented person, so
Yeah.
I love spending time with my family. Love spending time with my friends. They basically are my family anyways. Just yeah, trying new things, getting out there. Yeah.
Excellent.
Otherwise, I'm just laying in my bed, hanging out.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. And, Caylee, before I let you go, though, like past guests, who do you have in your volleyball circle that would have a good story that you think should come on and share?
Hmm, that's hard. You should definitely talk to KJ,
Okay.
aka Kennedy Jake Turner. That woman is full of stories.
All right. There we go.
She she in herself is an amazing human being. You want to talk about overachiever in a good way. That girl does it all.
All right.
And she happens to be my best friend. So,
Excellent. All right. Well, maybe I'll get you to twist her arm and we'll get her on.
hey, I got you.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And,
Thank you for having me.
good luck in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, she's a beauty.